This one is going to trigger some people, and if it does, good. Because triggers are where your growth actually starts. So let's get to the root of what's really happening. You are the reason you aren't attracting good men, plain and simple. Let's talk about it because I'm not here to sugarcoat or play into the whole men are trash, men are shit, the bear over men narrative that's been circling around online like wildfire recently. I'm here to hand you back your power. And sometimes that power starts with the truth that actually very stings. So, you are the reason you aren't attracting good men. And I'm not saying that to shame you. I'm not saying it to bash you. I'm not saying that you are not good enough, all the things. I'm saying it to set you free. It's not because you're unworthy. It's also not because you are broken. It's because you haven't yet healed the part of you that chooses that chaos over clarity, that chooses drama over depth, that chooses potential in somebody over actual embodied action, over actual embodiment. So, when you own that truth, the fact that you are the reason, you also take back your power and you stop finally being a victim to your own dating life, right? To your own love life. You stop blaming men for their actions, the apps, or the timing, or whatever it is that you're blaming right now, and you actually start asking, what in me keeps choosing this? What in me still thinks that I deserve this? What inside of me is still aligning with this? Because another fact I have to drop in here is that you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are energetically aligned with. I'm using that quote so often because it's not some silly quote. There is truth behind it, but you have to go deeper into it, right? So here's the hard truth most won't say out loud. You can write out every manifestation list in your journal. You can write out any manifestation method into your journal. You can script, you can visualize, you can pray, you can beg for a grounded and loyal and masculine and all the traits man. But if your energy says, I don't feel safe unless there's a little bit of chaos, unless there's a little bit of toxicity, unless there's a little bit of narcissism, or I only know love if it's earned or chased or proven, right? Those are your limiting beliefs. Then that's what you will pull in. That's what you will manifest. That's what you will attract, because you don't attract what you desire, you attract what you believe that you are worthy of, what you feel safe receiving, what your nervous system is calibrated to. And your subconscious is in charge. Your nervous system is only broadcasting. Your energy is calling the shots, right? And that energy, it doesn't lie. So if you're wired for chaos, if that's all you knew growing up, trauma, instability, dysregulated environments, right? Toxic environments, if that's all you knew, that's all you're still going to attract unless you rewire yourself. So again, if deep down love still feels unsafe, if consistency and a healthy relationship feels boring, if your nervous system only gets activated by emotional chaos and the unavailable ones and the ones who trigger your abandonment wound, then that's what you will keep pulling in over and over and over and over again. If it doesn't work with one person, the universe, God, spirit, whatever you believe in, will give you another person in the same form, because your body is choosing what's familiar and not what is good for you. That is why your intuition doesn't work in moments like that, because you are so dysregulated, your intuition doesn't even know what's right and what's wrong, right? And that's what brings me to the fact that wounded patterns equal wounded partners. If you haven't healed your wounding, you will keep attracting wounded men. Makes sense. Meaning that if you carry unresolved trauma, your abandonment wounds, your unworthiness on that is deep buried deep within your body. Gosh, my English is not Englishing today. You will seek men who match that imprint as well. Why? Because it's familiar. Like I said, it's not healthy, it's not aligned, it's familiar, it's all you know. And here's what's wild. You will call that chemistry. And girl, I have been there, right? I've been talking about the chemistry and the passion and the magic. You know, you're calling it that passion or that fire that you've never had with anyone else before, right? It's just different and he just gets me. And that adrenaline rush that you get, the magic, it's like you're magnets, right? You're just attracting each other. It's meant to be. But if we're being honest, you're only sweet talking yourself into it. You're trying to convince yourself that that is the right thing, that that is the right man, that that is not a toxic situation, but it's not actually true. It's not actually right. And if you would listen to yourself, you would know that because the chaos feels like home to you, right? But if you would really pay attention, you would see that it is chaos. If your standard is something like, I'll prove that I am enough by fixing him, you will always attract the kind of man who needs fixing. You'll always be his mom. If your default is love means self-sacrifice, right? Abandoning myself and putting him as a priority, you will call in men who demand your energy but never pour it back into you. You will always love him more than he loves you, if he even loves you. If you grew up learning that love is painful or maybe inconsistent or unavailable, then emotional unavailability will feel like home to you. All right? You will feel safe there until you don't. That's why you keep choosing it. That's why you stay when it's disrespectful, when you're being disrespected and treated like complete crap. That's why you keep giving chances over chances to men who already showed you that they weren't ready, who already showed you that they were toxic or narcissistic or whatever it is that you attracted. They've been showing you. But it's so familiar to you that you still cling to it because you love them. Because your energy doesn't know the difference between love and survival yet. And I want you to see this. That's not love. That's trauma reenacted. That's your nervous system chasing the same dynamic, just hoping that this time maybe it ends differently. You think you're that one in a million girl that's gonna change this man and he really loves you. He didn't love all of the other ones, but he loves you. But it won't change. Not until you shift, at least. The feminine that doesn't receive is a feminine that is still wounded. And that's what you need to understand as well. So, a healthy, grounded, and emotionally mature man, so the kind that you say you want, he will not step into a field of emotional chaos and desperation and control or performance. He will not play that game. A healthy masculine man doesn't want to fix you. He has no business fixing you. He doesn't want to compete with your independence, right? That's why this hyper independence is also very toxic because the man cannot be a man if you're already taking over this leadership role. He doesn't want to fight through your walls to prove that he is different. He doesn't want to be your savior. A real man doesn't want to compete with your masculine energy, like I just said. He doesn't want to peel off, let's say, your armor that you put on and beg to be let in, right? Don't play hard to get. Those are games. A real masculine man wants a woman who knows herself. A woman who is safe in her own body, who doesn't need to prove anything. A woman who actually can receive, so is in her feminine, because she has already chosen herself first, right? And that's the attractive part. So he wants a woman who's open and not desperate, who's soft but not weak, who's determined but not assertive, who is confident but still not in a performative and masculine way, right? Or in a simple performative way, so that you're actually inferior instead of superior. And if you're not attracting that type of man, it's not because they don't exist, right? So there's no need to say all men are trash and everyone's the same and everyone's toxic, because I have one. I have a great man. They do exist. You just aren't on a frequency to attract them. You are not in the frequency, in the right alignment to meet one. It makes sense. A grounded man can simply not enter a chaotic field. That's just how it is. So if he's not showing up, you need to ask yourself, would I feel safe showing up for me right now? Would I be able to lead and provide and protect in the energy that I am currently sitting in? That's what he's feeling. That's what's repelling or magnetizing the kind of men who are entering your field, right? Just answer the questions yourself. Do some self-reflection on that. You cannot attract a real masculine man while energetically living as a wounded little girl. So I want to talk about your standards, because if you still believe that love is something that you earn, if you're still operating from pick me energy and proving yourself over and over again, or overgiving, overcompensating, abandoning yourself, if you still think that being the most helpful and the most understanding, the most loyal while being disrespected is going to change him, you are not ready for the man that you say you want. Because those are not the standards. You are preparing yourself to be drained by yet another unavailable man out there. A real man will not rise for a woman who is chasing him. He rises and he steps into his leadership role for a woman who sits in her power already, who doesn't flinch, who doesn't question herself, who knows that she is worthy, right? So you want to attract a man in his masculine. Stop being in your fake masculine. Stop being the man in the relationship. Plain and simple. Stop also with the toxic femininity, because that is not helping your relationship and the balance in the relationship either. You say you want a masculine man, but you're showing up in yours. So how do you expect him to show up in his? You want him to lead, but you're too busy controlling everything, right? And we know as women, we're overthinking sometimes, we're very emotional beings, but that doesn't justify you being overly controlling, right? You're basically emasculating him doing that. You want him to, let's say, protect you, but you won't even let yourself soften long enough to be held by him, right? And that means that you cannot attract a man in his divine masculine when you're busy being in your wounded masculine yourself. You're chasing, you're overly performing, you're micromanaging everything that he does or everything anyone does, really. And that's not feminine power, right? That's fear in disguise. Real feminine energy isn't passive, it is being receptive, okay? Real feminine energy, it doesn't control, it just calls in. It doesn't chase, it magnetizes. You're attracting everything, you're receiving it, okay? And it doesn't perform, it's plain and simple embodiment. You're simply embodying it. So I need you to ask yourself, am I trying to earn love, or am I ready to receive it? Because for as long as you're chasing it, you're not going to find it. It's not going to come to you. You're in the wrong energy. So I need you to see that you don't get a dream man when you're still living as the abandoned version of yourself. That's why you need to focus on yourself. And that's why you hear all of those love stories, healthy love stories, where they say, I wanted to focus on myself, but then he just entered my life. That's what happened to me. I was so done. I was so focused on myself. I wanted to focus on myself that within a week, that as soon as that shift in my head happened, the next day I met him. You don't call in a man who will meet you in devotion when you are still choosing from desperation yourself. You don't pull in grounded masculinity when your feminine is still in survival mode. Okay? You become the woman who naturally attracts that kind of man by becoming her first. And I'm not saying that you need to be fully healed and super aware before you meet him. No, because there's so many aspects, especially for me personally, that I couldn't heal alone. I needed a man to help me heal it because I personally had a lot of relationship wounds. I had a lot of romantic wounds, and I couldn't heal those without him, right? He also helped me heal some wounds that I had from my childhood that had nothing to do with men. Okay, so you don't need to be perfect or super enlightened or all of these things to attract someone. You just need to focus on yourself and be an embodiment of the woman that you want to be in order to attract the man that you actually want. And you don't become her for him, not to get him. You become her because it's who you are without needing anyone else to validate it, right? It also doesn't matter what your family or friends are saying. So, what do? You come home to yourself. You stop outsourcing your worth to how a man treats you. Okay? Stop blaming men for what you are still tolerating. It doesn't, I'm not excusing their behavior because there's some bad people out there. There's people that choose very evil things, right? I'm not justifying that by any means, but at the same time, you have to find a thin line between when it's his actions and when is it you tolerating it and attracting it and allowing it and dealing with it and still choosing it. Okay? So again, let's be honest, it's easy to say men are trash. It's so easy to cry about why good men don't exist and how they all ghost and how they don't lead. But have you looked at your standards lately? Because it's always easy to blame everybody else. Have you actually stopped to ask, why am I still tolerating inconsistency and such low standards? Why am I still hoping that he will change? You're just setting yourself up for failure. Why am I choosing crumbs and calling it a connection? Why am I still choosing the bare minimum and calling it a connection? And calling it, I want kids with him and saying, I want to marry him and I want to spend my life with him. Every time you settle, every time you overgive, every time you ignore the red flags, you are teaching your body that this is love. And it's not. And especially if you have kids, you are teaching your kids that this is love as well. So they are growing up repeating the same mistakes as you. Think about that. If it doesn't hit enough triggering you, I'm going to trigger yourself with your kids. So it's time that you recalibrate your nervous system so that peace, meaning a calm and consistent love, feels like safety and not boredom. Okay? You need to rewire yourself in that sense. You need to learn to sit in your power without performing it, without putting on this mask and this fakeness and all the things, right? You're not in a circus. This is your life. I need you to raise your standards, not from ego, but from deep embodied worth that you have. You need to make your standards and your boundaries sacred. You need to make your energy more expansive because not everybody can meet you at your level. You need to stop romanticizing potential in somebody and hoping that they will change and actually just meet the reality. And my man and I were always saying, take it for what it is. Because people are showing you their true face from the beginning, from the first second you meet them. They are, you're just not looking. I also need you to stop accepting emotional crumbs and calling it a feast, right? It's not that. You need to face reality. You need to stop pulling together that narrative in your head about what a situationship or a relationship is and actually face it the way it really is. You also need to stop talking about good men like they are unicorns, right? And you start becoming the kind of woman who could actually receive one because they are not that rare. You're just looking in the wrong place, right? So look at the version of you that actually allows that disrespect and that inconsistency and that trauma and all of the things. Because when you do this, when you truly come home to yourself, you stop chasing men and you start attracting the kind of man who meets you where you are at, who sees you, who can hold you, who can lead by your side. And that doesn't mean that a healthy relationship isn't still going to trigger the shit out of you, right? You still need to do the work and communicate and set boundaries and compromise on things and just talk to one another to make it work. But until you unlearn that pattern, you will keep calling in the same man with a different name and a different face. I need you to understand that the feminine that can hold a good man is a feminine that's already good with herself first. Okay?